Minister, as I told you yesterday evening at our meeting in Ballyman, I want to thank the fact that you and your colleagues came down to meet us and meet some of the people. That was important. The economic lifeline is really gone, so it's very, very urgent that the message coming here from all of the TDs, irrespective of the county they're coming from, is listened to and adhered to. The reality is that economic lifeline gone. We need assistance. We need help. We need, we need extra economic activity. If it's brought around from, the county councils coming together through the LEOs, and an absolute commitment that we really put into practice balanced regional development. And finally, because our time is very limited, I really want you to address the issue of this dismantling of the power stations. I am totally opposed to it. It may be in planning, but surely somewhere we can get around that. I think it would be absolutely outrageous to, dismantle those power stations. But as from a tourism perspective, we don't know. Maybe we could get gas into places like Lanesborough. They should not be dismantled, and I'm asking you to put a stay on that if you can.
I just firstly appreciate how intense people feel about this, and that's why I did go down yesterday and I gave the time to meet with unions, with workers, with public reps and indeed some community representatives. And there is absolutely no doubt that this is a really difficult time, and that anger and frustration was very evident. I suppose what the government is determined to do is to deliver a just transition, and for me just transition is providing alternative employment opportunities that can be sustainable. Peace, yes, it was on an exit as we know, but it did expect to last for longer. We need to create job opportunities that are going to be permanent and can grow rather than be in a decline. And that's why I have been working over the last number of months, when this possibility first emerged from Bord Pleanála, to put together the sort of measures that we saw in the budget that do have a very clear commitment to just transition. 31 million, as you know, allocated, 20 million for the retrofit scheme, 5 million for non-Bord Móna activities on restoring bogs to a very high standard, 6 million in the Just Transition Fund. In addition to that, as I said and we discussed yesterday, we have been working with the European Union to repurpose the PSO so that we can use money to make sure that Bord Móna can restore bogs to a very high standard and provide. That's where 200 jobs would be provided. It's 100 jobs on the non-Bord Móna. That's where the 300 number came from that Deputy Stanley raised. There are many points that have been made here and yesterday concerning the future of the plant there, concerning the structure of tendering for business opportunities by Bord Móna. I have taken those back from our discussions yesterday, and I will be examining those with my officials and many other proposals. And that's why we did take the step of putting in place a Just Transition Commissioner, so that we could fully explore the many issues that are being proposed. And there are a lot of opportunities that are coming up from the community, and there are assets available from the two companies. So I'm determined that we will use this opportunity. And I think to recognise, as others have done, that Just Transition isn't for 2020 and that's it. Just Transition is a permanent part of our approach to carbon pricing. We've committed as an Oireachtas that we will move to a trajectory to a carbon price of €80 per tonne, and we have been very upfront and honest that all of that money will be ploughed back into helping people make this adjustment. Part of that is Just Transition for people uniquely exposed, as are the Bord Móna workers and those working in the peat generation plants. Equally, people who are suffering from fuel poverty and people who need to make changes in their lifestyle. We want to harness that and make the Midlands a leading exemplar of how we can make this move to a low carbon economy. It's part of what Bord Móna are seeking to do themselves, moving from brown to green, and they have a diversification plan. So we need to work through these, and that's why I think there was several ministers felt the same sense of commitment that I do to make this work for the people of the Midlands. So I appreciate the frustration and the questions that need answers, and we will work through and deliver those answers over the coming weeks and months, and indeed into the longer term, because we do recognise that it's a central part of the Climate Action Plan to manage this transition in a fair way to people directly affected. So we will be committing to develop these ideas to the maximum extent possible.
On the issue, I'm from a horticultural background myself. Before I went into the media business, but I feel that there's a huge amount of work could be done there, despite some of the cynics saying we couldn't do work on the horticultural business, and I intend to submit a paper on that. But I also think we need to look at an IDA focus on places like Ballinasloe that's going to be badly hit and its surrounds, Roscommon Town and Longford. So really, I'm saying, in relation to the IDA Minister, we must up the ante there and get them to take a special interest in the locality.
I'm not going to be able to answer everything, but to the best of my ability, I will. I mean, I recognise that one of the issues here are around the pressure on the rate base of local authorities, and that was discussed yesterday, and it is one we are going to have to look at. Retrofitting, we have committed hard cash to retrofitting. 20 million is there. We will be mobilising the local authorities to be the core of that in 2020, and clearly this is something we want to build in the further regions period. We have been admitted to the coal region platform, and I know the new Commission is interested in putting funding through that, so that will be an opportunity for us. I am open to suggestions on the terms of reference, and if the deputies want to put those forward, I'm happy to consider those. We've tried to draw them in a broad fashion. We are very confident that we will get the permission for the repurposing of the PSO, but obviously we have to get that signed. But we have done a lot of work, and I am confident that we will deliver that. Obviously, the planning permit, the peat regulations do require those companies to apply for substitute planning permission, and that is a requirement and will have to be done. But again, that is something that by having the work that we're doing in retrofitting or in restoring bogs, that strengthens the case, I believe. The other opportunities, clearly the ESB are the owners of the plant and have to evaluate its future. There are clearly alternatives as we move to a renewable base, to have alternative sources of fuel for when the wind doesn't blow and the sun doesn't shine, and clearly that is something that ESB will have to evaluate for this plant as in its overall set. I recognise we need to create opportunities in the Midlands, but obviously following these two particular announcements, there will be a concentration on working with people in the short term, those who have been most directly impacted, certainly around retraining, around the opportunities to switch into these new employment opportunities that we're developing. I think to build that bridge, we will have to concentrate particularly on areas where workers who've been directly affected are located. But of course, just transition is something that we'll be continuing to pursue, and I recognise the wider impact in the Midlands.
Thank you very much. The next important item comes from